There are no bells. The start time for class is flexible between 8 a.m. and 9. Students call teachers by their first name and have individual plans for their curriculum. It's called the AltSchool, and it's part of a growing trend of schools reinventing the education system one campus at a time. And here in the Bay Area, many of these schools have big investors and are often financially backed by Silicon Valley giants, entrepreneurs, and angel investors. Most notably, Facebook founder Mark Zuckerberg and his wife Priscilla Chan have donated hundreds of millions of dollars to schools, including the AltSchool. Today in the 4x4, we are taking a deeper look at these schools, what makes them different, and why some of the Bay Area's wealthiest view them as a good investment. And recently, I had the chance to visit an AltSchool for myself to see just how they are changing the way children learn.
But first, let's start.
Walk into the AltSchool and students are encouraged to be themselves.
It's really that you are understood, that the teachers in AltSchool, they really look to understand each and every child.
At the AltSchool's Fort Mason location on Buchanan Street in San Francisco, the atmosphere doesn't just look different, it is different.
What are tools you can use if you're feeling frustrated?
With just about 90 students from K through 8th grade and 4 teachers, the AltSchool focuses on personalized learning plans and real-world application that goes beyond what they call the conventional one-size-fits-all approach.
The students have so much agency and autonomy here. And I feel as a teacher here, I'm a curator and a supporter.
Kate Moriarty teaches science, technology, engineering, and math. She says they have a rigorous competency-based curriculum, which is driven mostly by Common Core standards. And with her 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders all in the same class, they're learning together, but at their own pace.
We have kids who are in 3rd grade, but they're learning things that a 5th grader might learn.
Being in public school, it felt like they kind of force everybody into a box, and he was kind of outside of that box.
Mike Cobra's son and daughter both attend Fort Mason. Dexter is in the 3rd grade, and this is his 2nd year here after attending a public school. Brixton is 5.
It really feels like the right kind of learning environment that fits into the modern day world.
And that's exactly what we witnessed during our visit there, the modern day world. In a months-long project, they integrated multiple subjects while learning about the wolf population in Yellowstone. With parents there in the audience, the class held a city council meeting. Along with the city council members,
there's a mayor, there's representatives from the Hunters Association, there's representatives from the Department of Tourism, there is representatives from the local indigenous population.
Howlerville is a fictional place, but it is based on a real town in Wyoming. The students were tasked with creating a wolf management plan to best handle the wolf population in Howlerville. The students talked to experts about wolf science. They used math to analyze data of wolf ecosystems. They created PowerPoint presentations.
You're seeing lots of things come into play here. So you're seeing collaboration, you're seeing writing, you're seeing research, like using data and to support an opinion.
And the collaboration means a lot to 5th grader Mia Mitchell.
Sometimes there's like a whole group of kids who want to they just want to learn things from other students.
So with no bells, no traditional classroom setup, and students encouraged to be themselves, learning is happening at this small school in San Francisco, but in a different way.
I think the big difference is that we look at each one of our students as individuals.
With us now is the founder of AltSchool, Max Ventella. Max, thanks for being here with us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it was quite the experience. I went to public school, so I thought my school was great growing up, but it was just so different being in there. Tell us about your vision for AltSchool. Where did it come from, and why did you think this sort of school, this type of education is needed?
Sure. So, I've been a technologist and entrepreneur since the 90s, and I've had the privilege to work at some amazing places, most recently Google, where I ran personalization, and you feel like you have a little bit of a glimpse into what the future is going to be when you work at a place like that. And at the same time, I have 2 young kids, and I was thinking about kind of what school would be like for them, and when you visit even the best schools, even in a place like San Francisco, which is supposed to be this amazing kind of future-forward mecca, schools look a lot like the schools that we went to. And it seems that the world has really changed and is only going to change more. And most of us wouldn't deny that the purpose of school is to prepare kids for the future they're going to actually experience versus kind of the experience that their parents or grandparents had. And yet, we haven't been able to, within the education space, make kind of big leaps and big changes. And a lot of that is because the way that we provide education is through these top-down structures, whether it's a district public school or even an independent private school. And we believe that, AltSchool can be part of something different, which is, more of a networked model where, you have classrooms, you have schools, you have a physical education that takes place, in a classroom with a real teacher. There's a curriculum, there's rigor and transparency, but at the same time, there's the flexibility for kids to learn differently and to learn, in a different way, different things that still, over the course of that formative decade, make sense according to what we know kids need to learn.
So let's talk about funding now. The trend of these privately funded alternative schools here, specifically in the Bay Area, you have the big tech names like Mark Zuckerberg putting their money into this. So obviously they believe in it, but how does it work when you have private funding with the school administration? How does that come together? Who's in charge?
Yeah, so it's not as if our investors are there making day-to-day decisions, and it's important to recognize that AltSchool doesn't have a principal. I'm not the person saying this is the way that things happen in this school.
I think there were 5 people at that Alt School, right? 4 teachers and I think 1 other staff member.
Yeah, so at Fort Mason it's a little more than that. So it's probably closer to 10 between the head of school and the various classroom teachers. That's right. We don't kind of say a school has to be 500 students, and we have mixed age classrooms, and the education is kind of intended to be very personalized, while still having most of the learning happening, in the real world, not on a screen, in small groups and with your classmates. And the idea is we can build technology that plays a supporting role, but a really transformative role in terms of what kind of education you can offer in the modern era, especially as it relates to really being able to meet each child where they are academically and non-academically, and that we can develop those approaches and develop those technologies not kind of off in a garage somewhere, but actually in constant collaboration with actual teachers who are running schools and who every day are with kids, and we can talk to kids and we can talk to parents. And it's just a very, very different way that you can kind of think about what might come next when you're neither just running schools nor just building technology, you're really doing both.
So what is next then for AltSchool? Because when I talked to one of the parents, Mike Kober there, he called his children sort of the guinea pigs because it still is very new. Have you seen anything so far along your journey here that maybe we need to change this, adjust this, turn here to make sure when these kids do graduate, let's say come 18 years old, they are just as prepared as a child from a public school, a child from a Catholic or Christian school, they're just as prepared?
Yeah, so we don't yet operate high schools.
Right.
We probably will at some point, but we have kids that have already gone on to high school. And the idea is what you learn at AltSchool should still absolutely meet what we all expect the child should be exposed to and what they should learn and master throughout those years. And furthermore, that you're really helping children become young adults who know themselves and what they need to be happy and successful, and can actually get that from the world and make those with them, their classmates and their communities, better off. A young adult that fits that description is going to do well in a high school, and more importantly, they're going to do well in the world of the 2030s and 2040s and 2050s when they're actually going to have to be an adult and figure out for themselves what success means and how do they get that success in an era where you're not told this is exactly what you do next and move from this place to that place and show something in this way or you won't be successful. It's almost kind of flipped today, where
Mac,
you're not given the playbook.
I gotta jump in, we're out of time. It's so interesting. I can talk to you for several more minutes about this, but thank you for coming on. Thank you for allowing us into your school.
Thank you for having me.
Max Ventella, founder of AltSchool. Thanks, Max.